Hi everyone, this is Kerim Baran with SolarAcademy. Today I have with me two solar industry veterans, Deep Patel and Jeff Spies. They have been in the industry for a long time, and they're focused on two companies that serve the long tail of the industry in unique ways. And today I'm going to be asking them to tell us a little bit about what they do. So Deep, why don't we start with you and your companies Gigawatt Inc. and Go Green Solar, and also weave in what Jeff does for the industry with his various industry activities, as well as his company Planet Plansets. So Deep, why don't you tell us a little bit about who you are, how you come into the solar industry, and your company.
Yeah, sure. Thanks a lot, Karim, for having us today. I really appreciate it. I've prepared a short but entertaining presentation for the audience. So I'm just going to pull it up so we can get started here.
Sounds good.
All right. So my name is Deep Patel, and I'm the founder and CEO of a company called Gigawatt. We're based in Orange County, California, and our mission is to power people's lives with sunshine. And it's a company I started in my parents' garage in 2006. So we've been in business for over 14 years, helping people go solar. So today's agenda is I'm going to just talk a little bit about myself, who I am as a person, where my background, and then we're going to go into the history of solar. Solar has a very long history that goes back thousands of years. And then we're going to take that story and talk about today, and then what we believe is the future of where we're going. And then we're just going to open it up to some discussion. So let's get started. All right. So my name is Deep, and my name means light. It's actually a Gujarati word. My parents are from Gujarat, India. They immigrated here in the 70s, and they eventually made it to California and set up their home in the Los Angeles area. And I was born in 1983 in West Covina, California. And my name means light, and that's what I do. I help people turn sunlight into light to power their homes. I'm 37 years old. I'm vegan. I've been vegan for over 6 years now. I completely am on a plant-based diet. And not only do I find it really healthy, but it's environmental friendly. It kind of fits in with the core values that I live by as a person. Over the last 10 years, I've been driving an electric car. I currently have a Nissan Leaf, and I love driving EVs, and I believe it's the future. And I think it's going to be an integral part of the distributed energy mix. And outside of the solar industry, I also do jujitsu. I've competed all over the US and Europe. And this picture to the left was in 2020, where I got second place at the European Championships. After many years of failing, I finally made it to the podium.
Congrats.
So, but a lot of the stuff I learned on the mat in jujitsu also can apply in business, because business is a competition. It's, the solar industry is a roller coaster. And a lot of the lessons I've learned doing jujitsu has taught me how to run a business more effectively.
Great.
It's a little bit about me. And, people have been trying to harness the power of the sun since ancient times, Karim. This story goes back actually 6,000 years. In 6000 BCE, in Beijing, China, some explorers that were walking through the streets realized all the houses faced south. And they did this to capture solar energy back in the day. And this was like one of the first documented uses of humans actually using the sun as an energy source. So this was one of, in China, they were doing this type of building practice over, 6,000 years ago. So in 400 BCE, during the Chinese Bronze Age, they discovered that the Chinese had developed these Yangtze burning mirrors. And what this was one of the first man-made devices that harnessed solar energy. What it did was it reflected sunlight onto a pile of sticks and started the fire. It's like a solar lighter. But it wasn't until 1921 when this man, who's really famous, Albert Einstein, discovered the photoelectric effect. And that's what he won the Nobel Peace Prize for. Out of all the stuff he discovered, this was his biggest, most recognized discovery. And in summary, what the discovery had unleashed was that light rays actually have electrons in them. So he made the connection that there's electricity in light rays. But it wasn't until 1954 that discovery Einstein made started to become commercialized. And one of the first commercializations was the first silicon solar cell made by Bell Labs. And this was some of the press coverage that they were getting back in the day. And it was all in the paper saying like, this technology is going to change the entire world. There was a lot of excitement and buzz around the technology, and everyone thought this would be replacing oil. But the scientists at Bell Labs ran some numbers and they did some number crunching, and they were a little disappointed because they realized that it would cost $1.4 million in 1954 to power a house with solar cells. So they thought, they were really excited, but then they thought, wow, this technology, it's not going to make it out of the lab. It's just too expensive. There's no customer that can afford this. And they were bummed out. And then all of a sudden the phone rang. They picked up the phone and they said, hello, how can I help you? And it was NASA on the other line. And NASA said, hey, we've been reading about your solar cells. I think you guys can help us. And they got their first customer. So the space industry actually embraced solar panels. They were the first ones to actually take solar cells and implement it into satellites. And basically before this, they were launching satellites into space and they were coming back down in 1 to 2 weeks after the battery died. And they were losing a lot of money just launching satellites. So the space industry, by embracing solar cells, actually saved the solar industry and kind of, got its first viable customer. And a lot of people were watching this and seeing like what benefits the space industry was getting from solar. And then these companies actually thought that they could bring this technology back down to earth. And they did, because they faced some similar challenges in remote areas. They were doing exploration and drilling, and it was really difficult for them to get energy to these locations. So they started making their own solar panels and powering their own operations off of solar. And back then, one ExxonMobil executive even said that solar would be the most dominant energy force, that the oil and gas industry would eventually be like phased out by solar. And this was an executive report back in the 70s. So they really embraced it. They saw the value, and they were companies like Shell and BP and Arco. They were all making solar panels back in the day. But it wasn't until the late 70s when the first residential usage of solar started to occur. The companies like AEE Solar back up in the Northern California. There was a back to the land movement happening where a lot of hippies were moving out of the city and going into Northern California where they were getting like very cheap or free land, and they were building these communities. But these communities didn't have any power, and they were typically running their homes off of their car batteries or just living off of kerosene. And David Katz, the founder of AEE Solar, saw that as an opportunity. He ended up buying some solar panels from like a random consumer electronics trade show. He brought them up into the communities, and the communities just took them all really fast. So he discovered a niche market of ability to sell. The first residential solar panels were basically being bought and installed by the hippie community in Northern California. And then, you know, from the 70s to the 90s, it was just like a cottage industry. And in the 90s, it kind of became dark days for our business. Big oil exited, a lot of the panel manufacturers left the business. The EV1, which was a wildly popular electric car, was crushed. And it just became a quiet industry that was still just very much of a cottage industry. And then it wasn't until 2006 where this industry got revived. And Governor Arnold Schwarzenegger, he signed the Million Solar Roofs Initiative into law. And what happened here was he was someone that came from Austria. He was exposed to Germany. He saw how solar was really helpful there. And he thought that California has so much sunshine. It just makes a lot of sense here. So this wasn't a popular idea in California, but he kind of really fought to bring solar into the California energy mix, and he succeeded. And he signed this initiative into law, and that's when we started in 2006. I established the company as Go Green Solar, and one of my first projects was installing solar on my parents' house. And basically I did a DIY project, and I did it all on my own, dug all the trenches, got the permit, did interconnection, went through every little nook and cranny of the job, and basically learned a lot through this experience. Also, I blogged about it. And as I was blogging and creating content, people started contacting me for my expertise on where to get solar panels. And at that time, I started helping people and drop shipping solar panels. And through that, I started becoming, getting more involved in the industry. I became a volunteer at Grid Alternatives, and I got on any roof that I could just to gain more experience, develop more content, and get more intimate with the nuts and bolts of how everything worked. And as I did that and I published more leads started to come in. And at that point, I started hiring some of my friends and my brother, and we became a little organization. And we got our first office. Through that process, we just started helping, like hundreds of people go solar, and now thousands of people go solar per year. And then we got involved in a lot of different solar projects. Like, for example, the city of Los Angeles, we did a solar project with them where we installed grid-tied solar panels on street light poles and offset their energy bills for their street lighting. And I was recognized by the mayor of LA and city council for this innovative project that I helped the city with and the street lighting department with. And through that, my name got referred over to the White House. And the White House basically invited me over 3 times during the Obama administration to talk about distributed energy and how we can implement more distributed energy into our communities. And after that, I started getting more involved with CalSIA back then, which was the California Solar Industry Association. And now it's CalSA, which is the California Solar and Storage Association. And I did work with them going up to Sacramento and helping with net metering and solar laws. So I started getting actively involved in lobbying for the solar industry. Also did the same thing with SIA at our nation's capital, and basically did the same thing on the federal level of helping create good solar policy so we can have a thriving market.
Love it.
Yeah, and that led me to wanting to learn more about the supply chain and understanding how solar cells and wafers and ingots were made. And I started touring around the world to learn how the process upstream worked.
Mm-hmm.
But the best thing I got out of these 14 years doing all of this is the awesome friendships I've built in the industry. I've met some of the coolest, most interesting people over the last 14 years that, first started off as business connections and turned into some of my closest friends. So, I think this has been the most rewarding part about this industry is the people, because it seems like our industry, yes, people want to make money, but it's not the primary reason people are into this. It's they want to make a difference and they think the technology is so cool. So I love the passionate people involved in this space, and I think that's the best thing I've gotten out of this industry.
Mm-hmm.
And Jeff has organized a bunch of pioneer parties over the years, and I've gone to all of them, and they've been really amazing because at the solar pioneer parties that Jeff honors these hippies that started this residential industry. We like the people who are in this industry now can learn from the people that first got started. And I've been able to learn from some of those people, and I've learned some great lessons and heard some awesome stories that still resonate with me today. So, we want to keep the legacy alive of the solar pioneers, because, when they started, they were doing it for that mission purpose. And as the industry keeps growing and becomes more corporatized, it's harder to keep that that foundation of what this industry was all about. So,
how would you summarize that, what this industry was all about? If you were to
I would say it was grassroots, it was change, like positive change, environmentalism, doing the right thing, right?
Yeah. Sustainable development.
Yes, sustainable development. And in December 2019, we came around full circle because that initiative that Governor Schwarzenegger signed in 2006, 1 million solar roofs, was finally achieved in December of 2019. So CalSA threw this big event in Clovis, California, where we honored not only Governor Schwarzenegger, but the senator who created the bill, and Jerry Brown. And I had the opportunity to be on stage and, also talk to them in the back, in passing, and tell them thank you for doing this, because, they sparked this entire worldwide revolution, because what people in California do, it seems like the world follows California. So it was nice to come back full circle and basically thank and honor these leaders that really took this off. And today, here we are today. That same system in 1956 that cost 1.4 million, The equivalent system size would now cost 20,000, and there's an array of financing options out there, and it's now easier than ever to go solar. And more people, it's a no-brainer investment. And these days I'm hearing that customers not even really caring too much about the ROI. They just think it's pretty cool to have solar on their roof. So we're in a complete different environment, and we believe today is the future for the business, for the solar industry. And we're really excited to power people's lives with sunshine. And we believe this is the future, the distributed future, where there's solar panels on the roof, an electric car in the driveway, and a battery storage system in the garage. So this is our vision of the totally distributed grid. And what we do is they don't make it easy for you to go solar. They're easy. Solar panels, Karim, are easy to install, but actually getting all the permissions and the approvals and the engineering complexities are what makes this product difficult. So what we do is we make it simple. And we do that by creating custom solar kits, and they're all completely engineered, pre-engineered systems, and we provide an array of customer support activities to help a client like this guy on the right just be able to install his system without any headaches.
Are these customers of yours, are they usually engineer types, electricians, or just DIYers with some electrical knowledge who are just, more curious than the average customer?
Yeah, it's a wide range of customers, but most of our customers are technically inclined. And they've worked around their own houses, and some of them are contractors, some of them are IBEW electricians that have installed solar for large commercial or utility scale operations, and now they want to do it on their own house. So we have a wide mix of clients, and I have a slide on who our clients are.
Great.
But what we are becoming is the Ikea of solar. We're providing solar in a box, where it's an easy online ordering process, and all the support services, so people can just get their projects finished quickly.
Great.
And these are our customer segments that we serve currently. One is the DIYer, and the DIYer is actually two types of personas. The first persona is like that IBEW electrician, right? Who's like, I'm gonna buy it, have Go Green Solar do all the support services, but I just want to be told on how to install it, and I can follow directions and install it on my own. The second persona of a DIYer is someone who has a trusted contractor that they've already been working with for other things around their home or business, right? And they just kind of want to buy the materials and manage the project. They have the labor force to basically do the job. So they buy our kit and our services, and then they outsource the actual installation to a qualified professional that they trust and know. So those are the two types of DIYers we serve. And then the second growing market is the home builders in California. 2020, the mandate, home builders have to have solar on their new home builds. So we're helping them become compliant. We're also helping their existing labor. They typically have a roofer and electrician on site. So rather than getting a solar company involved, a third trade, their roofer and their existing electrician can just install our kit, saving the home builder money and having less headache of having a third contractor involved. So they save time and money with our method.
And their own project managers, I assume their own project managers manage the project.
Their own project managers, And then we have specialty contractors, and these aren't your typical solar contractors. These guys are like remodelers, HVAC guys, roofers, electricians that may have, a handful of solar projects every year. They're not trying to become the biggest solar company. They just get to run into a few solar projects a year. So they're not really looking to have a whole back office and become a solar business. So they let us do all their back end work, and they buy our kit and make their client happy by installing a solar system for their client. So those are our three
major market segments.
Major market segments, yes. And Gigawatt. So I wanted to explain how we all work with each other, because Gigawatt is we're a California corporation, and we own two different businesses. One is GoGreenSolar.com, which services those customers that are buying solar kits. And with our solar kits, we provide a full set of plans, which we contract out to Planet PlanSets, which is its own entity, and Jeff Spies is the president of Planet PlanSets and runs the day-to-day operations. And not only does he enable our company to provide support services to our customers, but he also helps the solar industry at large do the same thing for their customers. So he's also a service provider for many other solar contractors in the market. So Go Green Solar and Planet PlanSets, we have some shared services that have some synergies between each company where we help each other. But we are all in the same mission of getting more distributed solar out in the marketplace.
Right.
Yeah.
And how long have you two known each other and have been working together?
I was thinking of that just earlier today, and I believe we met sometime around 2009, 2010.
Yeah.
We were both active on social media, and there was a gathering of folks that got together for a mutual friend of ours who unfortunately passed away at a unfortunate young age. But that's when I really got to know Deep, and I was really impressed by his character, I guess you'd say, and we became friends right away. And that friendship grew over the years to the point where we became business partners about 3 years ago. And I'll just say that I've had the pleasure of interacting with literally thousands of solar contractors and companies over the years. But Deep's, not only his ability to do the work the proper way, but his integrity is second to none. And I've been very honored to be friends with him. He's a great person, and he provides an excellent service for his customers. Just check the reviews on Google and you'll see that, he's got incredibly stellar reviews from his customers, because he really does provide a tremendous amount of support before, during, and after the sale.
Right. Thanks for that.
Yeah.
Jeff, should we talk a little bit about Planet PlanSets now? And maybe before that, a little bit about you and your journey in the solar industry and what you guys do with Planet PlanSets, or do you have any other thoughts?
Well, sure. I've got a short presentation I can share if you can enable participant screen sharing.
Oh, that's right.
Zoom has the rules, of course.
Of course. Here we go.
All righty. And tell me in a moment if you can see my screen okay.
Yes, we can.
So my company's name is Planet PlanSets, and as our name implies, of course, we generate permitting plan sets for residential solar contractors. Of course, seems to have taken off on its own. So let me just stop that and go to this. All right. So going back to my bio, obviously my day job is Planet PlanSets as president, where I get involved with contractors, assisting them generating permitting plan sets for their residential solar projects. But I wear a few other hats in the industry, including I serve on the board of the North American Board of Certified Energy Practitioners, which anybody who's been in the solar industry for very long knows is NABCEP. It's quite an acronym, to say the least. But I've been on the board of NABCEP for since 2009, and served as secretary about that long. And I also serve on the board of the California Solar and Storage Association, what used to be called CalSIA, but now is CalSA because we added storage to the name. And I do also, in addition to serving on the board, function as the chair of the Codes and Standards Committee. So of course that's brought me into a lot of codes and standards related issues, which has paid off for the work that I now do with Planet Plan Sets. I've been on the standard technical panels for UL 2703 for quite a number of years, I guess probably 2010, 2011, when I first joined the 2703 standard technical panel, more recently joined the 9540 standard technical panel for energy storage systems, or what many people think of as batteries. And but probably the role that I'm most drawn to in my career is I never expected I would do this, but I helped make a documentary film with my good friend Jason Vetterly about how the solar industry actually started, or more specifically, how the photovoltaic industry started. It's called Solar Roots, and while we haven't made it available to the public yet, we've shown it a few dozen times at industry events, and it's a really entertaining story about the unique way in which our industry came into existence. Anybody that wants to check it out can just Google Solar Roots and you'll probably find it pretty easily. But it was about 2+ years of my life to make in researching how this technology turned into an industry in the late 70s, early 80s, and for the next 20 years was really driven by the home power market more than anything else. And eventually, of course, in the mid-2000s, the technology and the industry really became mainstream when grid tie solar took off. So it's I like to tell people it's not a boring talking head documentary. It's really a fun story about really interesting people that did something amazing to take a super expensive technology and make it practical for people in their homes around the country and around the world. So just a real few minutes on Planet Plan Sets and what we do. We generate permitting plan sets, and they're used by 4 distinct categories of people. The permit techs that review the permit application at the building departments. Obviously, you've got those inspectors that go out in the field and inspect the systems. You've got the installers that need a blueprint essentially as to how to install the system. And finally, and I would argue probably as important, it serves as an important document for the homeowner years later if any service is required, because if you have a plan set, oftentimes you can diagnose problems without having to roll a truck to the customer's home to figure out what might be going on. Now, there is knowledge and experience required to be able to generate a proper permitting plan set. And of course, I've listed some of the codes and standards there in that bullet point that one must have some familiarity with to make certain that your plans meet the codes and standards. And obviously, the core of what we do is CAD drafting. So that's really the key elements of the plan set. And I'll just go through what I consider to be the most important aspects of a plan set. But first, you know, what we do is different than what many contractors do. Most contractors, in fairness, generate their permitting plan sets in-house, where they have somebody that knows how to do CAD and they draw it up. But what we do is provide that service as an outsourced service to contractors. I like to equate what we do to being an accountant. Sure, we could all do our own taxes, but few of us really have the desire to do that. We hire an accountant. Similarly, you can draft your own permitting plan set, but you could also hire a company like ours to perform that function for you. So, oops, sorry. My slides went in reverse. So the key elements of a plan set I'll cover right now, starting with the cover page, which covers the scope of work. It shows the map location of the installation, has general notes as to what kinds of standards you're complying with, which versions of the code that you're working with, the table of contents, and the contact information for the contractor and the homeowner. The site plan is what many people really zero in on a plan set, which shows, you know, the property lines of the home, the driveway, street, gates, fences, pools, septic fields in some cases, and all the major equipment locations from the solar panels on the roof to the meters and main service panels and disconnects, combiners, so on and so forth. We then provide, in the case especially of more complex projects like you see here, which this is a fairly sizable residential system that gets complex. In some cases, you need to know where all the strings are, and you can see the color coding that we use. The array layout not only shows the details of each array on the roof surface, but it shows things like the fire setbacks and pathways and the roof attachments. And in this case, we've got module level power electronics that are represented by those small blue squares that are inside of each solar panel. So this is what I would say is a critical document for many solar installers and building departments when you're trying to understand the system. And this is just a closer up image of some of the structural details that one would look at. We do show the attachment details. Here's a standard roof hook that would, in fact, this is the same roof hook that was used on my own solar system. It's right outside my window here. And the electrical plans, a wire diagram. This oftentimes is what many people affiliate with a permitting plan set. This is how the PV system connects to the inverter, connects to the disconnect and the main service panel and meter, and it includes all those calculations that would be needed to validate the system is compliant with the electric code. And we do provide some really helpful guidance on our website to contractors to figure out how big of a PV system you can backfeed into a service panel. Additionally, we provide all the warning labels and the site placard that would be appropriate to provide in the system, all the product spec sheets and certification documents. So those are the key elements that we feel are relevant in a permitting plan set. And we like to think that we can provide a really valuable service for our contractors in helping make certain that they understand the rules of the game and how to apply them. So that's the work we do. And of course, Deep is not only a business partner, but we indeed provide that same service for Go Green Solar. And it's a real collaborative relationship where we're sometimes working on things that fall outside the realm of generating a permitting plan set. Here we had a recent project in Utah where the building official determined that the ground mount would need rapid shutdown. Now, most people, myself included, do not believe that rapid shutdown applies to ground mounts, but because of the unusual manner in which the code is worded, there was the perception that maybe you did need rapid shutdown, and this could have equated to another $800 in hardware had the customer been required to provide that. And fortunately, through the work that I do in the codes and standards realm, I was able to reach out to some of my colleagues who, one in particular who headed up the International Association of Electrical Inspectors, who was the past president, and the permit reviewer who also serves on some codes and standards committees that I work on, to try to understand what the concern was. And when all was said and done, we were fortunately able to provide just a disconnect that was an easy thing to do, saved the homeowner that was doing the installation $800 of cost and a lot of labor. And that's the kind of, I guess you could say, collaborative benefit that we provide to our contractors, is not only giving them a plan set, but helping them, guide them when it comes to these codes and standards issues, which are becoming more complicated as the years go by.
All right. Well, thank you very much for all that information to both of you about your companies. Let's talk a little bit about the current state of the industry, where you see it going and the trends, maybe some a little bit about storage, and the challenges of the industry right now, and what you would like to be fixed, changed, what we need to do about all that. We got about another probably 15 to 20 minutes of time budgeted for this. So
don't worry, we can fill it. I can talk now.
All right, go ahead.
Yeah, I would think the industry's changing quite rapidly, Karim. It's always changing, but right now it's changing even faster due to the more importance of energy storage. Mm-hmm. And energy storage is simply extremely complicated, right? Mm-hmm. One thing about it is what technologies are out there currently don't meet what a consumer wants to do. Like most consumers, if you ask them about energy storage, right, they want to back up their entire house, every load in the house, right?
Yeah,
for unlimited periods of time.
and that's still a little costly.
Yes.
In
And they
5 to
want
10 years, that'll be different, but yes, right now it
at an
is.
affordable price. And obviously that's not available right now. So when you do tell someone what is,
Possible.
capable,
Yeah.
right, with the budget that is required, I don't think it meets most customers' expectations. Right? They think
True.
it's too high for so little, right?
Correct.
Also, there's a lot of technical challenges, in terms of like main service panels. Like now you're adding a battery system that's, also has to be, factored in. You're trying to put CTs into a service panel, which, are required for most battery systems. And those current transducers are sometimes practically impossible to put into a main service panel because it's just so packed to the brim, right? So we're trying to now take this antiquated service panel and just jam a bunch of stuff into it, right? Like solar, storage, CTs, like we're trying to make it smarter. So there's a whole area there that needs to be, revamped. Is why do we have these old dumb MSPs? Well, they need to also be upgraded as part of the energy of the future, where you can control all your loads, you can look at each appliance and how much wattage it's taking, and can start managing your energy usage in real time. That seems like where the future's headed, with electricity rates and time of use pricing, and also like when there's a fire and they have to cut energy down.
Which is happening often nowadays.
Customers need to be able to respond quickly on figuring out what to shut off in their house. So a lot of that, it's a very changing market. And then I hear net metering 3.0 in California is coming. And basically that's going to be another challenge in terms of, legislative issues that are coming up the pipe that's creating a lot of uncertainty.
And I'll just add to that, Karam, that what I envision is happening in the future is solar companies are transitioning from solar only, where they're going up to the roof installing solar, where they now might be installing energy storage too. But the other aspect of this that often isn't considered by a lot of folks in the solar industry is demand management. The fact is that being able to intelligently turn loads in your house on or off, depending on the resource, is really beneficial. Utilities typically, utility rate structures for residential customers have not considered demand charges, but here in Arizona where I reside, we have the highest percentage of residential customers that utilize residential demand charge rates. And that's an interesting challenge, because now you have to put control systems into your home or into your business. Demand charges are very common commercially, that will cut loads out when you don't want to be consuming too much power at any one time. So what I would argue is solar companies, in order to play in the business of the future, will have to become not just solar or solar plus storage, but energy service providers for the business owners and for the homeowners. So that's really the future of our industry, is the folks that are doing the installations will have a much stronger, longer relationship with those customers, where they'll be helping manage their cost of energy through things like demand management and energy storage. So it's a really exciting and interestingly more complicated world that we're entering into.
I agree. I agree, and I wonder how that will change human behavior. I believe we're walking into a future where we as homeowners, consumers, will be a lot more energy aware of, what a kilowatt hour really means. Most people don't even, look at their bills, they don't even know the difference between a watt and a watt hour. And I just wonder if how we will get to be more aware of the energy with that, for sure.
With a mobile phone,
yes.
That when you go to do that load of laundry or bake that cake, it'll say, hey, if you do that now, it's going to cost you $20. If you wait 2 hours, it'll cost you 50 cents. That's how the game will change, is with communications that will allow the consumer to understand, if they so desire, everything that they do and what the cost is associated with doing that.
Right. Yeah. Economic and environmental, probably. Yeah. Great. Well, anything else you guys would want to add to this conversation before we wind it down?
Well, I would just like to say that going back to the discussion earlier on, that I worked for 20 some odd years of my career in the industrial automation field, and well, it was a living. I don't know that it brought me a tremendous sense of satisfaction that I was doing something that really mattered. And like a lot of folks that come into the solar industry, I took a noticeable pay cut, but I don't regret it for a moment, because the sense that I'm doing something that is beneficial for society and for our planet is so rewarding that the income that you make pales in comparison. And I didn't know that I would feel that way. I just got into the solar because I thought the technology was cool. But when I got in, I found out that the people that I work with and the customers are wonderful. It's when you're able to contribute to a finished solar installation, it's amazing that just to cite a recent documentary film called Jonathan Scott's Power Trip. Everybody should watch it. It's wonderful. But Jonathan Scott is one of the Property brothers, one of the twins. And he said that he's been on, as you can imagine, probably thousands of construction sites in his whole life. But when he installed solar on his home, he said he's never seen so many smiling people on a construction job in his life. And that's what I think makes our industry different, is that we all feel like we're doing something not only that's beneficial for the planet and for society, but something that matters, so that when I end up, departing this world, I won't have regrets that I wasted my life. I feel I'll have done something that really has value to the world and has value to me.
Jeff, thank you very much for these thoughts. And Deep, likewise, thank you for sharing your company's stories. And we'll be in touch, and we'll probably have more conversations talking about interesting topics for the industry. Thanks.
Thanks, Karen.
Yeah, thanks, Karen.